everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do DIY Dollar Tree Farmhouse Easter decor. We're going to do 3 easy projects. Well, I think they're easy. We're going to use any tag, and if you can't find a tag, you can always get a rectangular sign and cut the corners off, and now you have a tag. We're going to use the printables. I will link these printables or whatever I can find down in the description box down below. We're going to use some Mod Podge. This is from the Dollar Tree, but I have a big one that I'm using from Amazon that I was gifted. We're going to use 2 packs of the eggs and 1 pack of the carrots, and that's for 2 different DIYs. We're also going to use some paint and, of course, hot glue, jute, stuff that comes with Farmhouse DIYs. So the first thing we want to do is remove the sticker. Now, I would like to show you, but I kind of went over it. I took the sticker off with Glue Gun, and I mentioned that Glue Gun will affect the way the paint sticks. And I actually videotaped it and then I lost it, but it kind of makes it look like it almost has crackle. It doesn't let the paint sink into the fiberboard like if I would have used any other technique. Rubbing alcohol dissipates really easy. It takes the glue off. Dollar Tree has that adhesive remover that's like sort of like a gummy eraser, and that kind of works. That works more with friction. You can always use sandpaper or whatever, but so I just hit the edges with sandpaper just to smooth them out, and then I hit the glitter with sandpaper just to knock off whatever extra glitter there was. And this is just Waverly's chalk paint in white. I really love Buffalo Check gingham, black and white. My French country home. My French country farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. No, I'm kidding. I live in town. Anyhow, I digress. So I'm giving it one nice even coat. Nothing spectacular. We've done this plenty of times on our channel. So I was mentioning the printables. I did link the place where I found the free printables, and then one of the viewers who went to that link said they wanted her to sign up for a free trial. I did not have to sign up for a trial, but most of these were found by just Googling black and white check. And then I go to images. So I hit Google Images, black and white check, and I was able to save images just from there. I didn't actually have to go to anybody's website, but I shared the links to the websites just in case. So what I'm doing with this one is that small gingham that I picked, and I have some left over from the previous project. What I'm doing is I'm kind of making strips just to create a border. Of course, if you have ribbon, if you have fabric, if you have washi tape that looks like this, any of those would be fine. We're actually going to use double sticky tape, but you can use a glue stick, or you could use Mod Podge if you'd like to. But of course, for the sake of the video and the sake of time, I try to do something that I don't have to wait to dry. And then, sometimes with Mod Podge, you can get like the film on the chalk paint. And I wanted to just make sure that that was not the problem. So I have just Jot double sticky tape. And honestly, the roll is really old. They don't make it quite as wide anymore. And they don't make quite as much on there anymore. But it's just Jot's double sticky tape that I put on the back of the strip. And then I cut to fit and then used it like tape. So I put 2 thin strips on both sides, one across the bottom, and then I took another strip, kind of like the one that was on the sides, and I went across the top, like the peak and sides and stuff. It took a little bit of finagling, and then it was a little design thing. How did I want to do it? And then, of course, I cut my paper down, and then the paper didn't fit, so I had to piece 2 pieces together. This was... I want to do this like a full disclosure type of project, because this project took me 3 days, and it didn't take me 3 days because it was a really time consuming project. It took me 3 days because just Murphy and his law were in effect. So you could see I'm having trouble. I went to go peel it off, and then the paper peeled off and the sticky tape stuck to the board, and then I had to add more sticky tape. It was not a good day for me. Hopefully when you go to actually make this, you'll have no problems. And I will tell you, normally I would not have a problem with this. I'm not saying like, oh, Jeri crafts all the time, and if she had a problem, I don't want to do it. Honestly, this was a day that just nothing was going right. And you'll see even further. It's going to go even further into the next part of the project, which I left all of the boo-boos on there. Today is April Fool's Day, and previously in years April Fool's Day is when I would put up basically my boo-boos, my big mistake days of all the projects that just didn't work out. So I didn't want to do that this year because there's so much I feel like there's so many negative things right now happening in the world but I did want to share with you a little bit of realism, a little bit of this is what happens to people who are quote unquote professionals. And when it happens to you, I don't want you to get down on it. I just want you to be able to brush it off and move forward. Remember, it's just paper, it's just tape, it's just glue, it's just paint. All of those things, none of those things have to be permanent. Okay? Yeah, just breathe. Just breathe. Now, this tag was a Christmas tag. It's kind of long, but whatever shape, size tag you have, obviously, that's why we're not giving you dimensions. But I did want it to still remain looking like a buffalo check, so I did put a strip. Each strip had at least 3 rows, like a white row, a dark row, and a white row. And then as you see, the strip that goes across the top is kind of covering the hole. Well, that's okay because we're actually going to make a new hole. For some reason, these tags don't look in proportion to their holes. Their holes don't look proportion to their tags. So I knew what I wanted to say. I knew I wanted it to say a combination of a Bible verse and a Christian song. So I wanted to write, He is risen, He's alive. So that's, it's sort of like, I don't know, it just kind of felt like very lyrical to me. And I just had the worst time. So first I started to write he in script, and then I was like, Jerry, he really needs to be capital because it's about Jesus, and it's like he is a name, and he is so then I painted over it, and I came back the next day because I just needed to walk away from it for real. Just put it away, walk away, and come back the next day. And here's the next day, and I was like, okay, I definitely want to write He is risen. So let me put he in sort of Ray Dunn font. I just took that square just to make sure that I had a straight line. And I just put really skinny, thin letters, tall, all capitals. And then I put he has risen. And then I was like, when I went to go research the word risen in script, as you could see, because I'm having a horrible time writing it. You know, you guys always compliment me on my beautiful handwriting, but I don't always have beautiful handwriting. On this day, my arthritis was not allowing my pen to flow, and that's the only way I could think about saying it. So I went back to the drawing board and I painted over the word risen and I let it dry, and I came back the next day. Now I will tell you then what I did do, and you didn't see me doing this because it's actually on the device that I'm using, is I Googled it on my phone. I went and I put risen farmhouse. I said he is risen in quotation marks, and then I put farmhouse font. And I came up with so many. But all of the examples that I saw said he is risen. But I always remembered it as he has risen. So I come to find out that different versions, different books in the Bible, I think Matthew might say it has, and then everybody else says is, or the different versions of the Bible have different. So the sentiment is the same. I mean, there is no Bible in the quote that say he is risen, he's alive anyway. So that's just me putting it together, but that's what I wanted it to say. So then I was like, oh, did I change? Do I now go and erase has and put is? I just left it. So now I'm spacing out the letters on the bottom to fit evenly with the top. I wanted to say he has risen, he is alive. And I wanted to make sure that I had it spaced evenly and had enough room to write all that down there. So then I just basically copied however much space was on the top section, and I copied that down, converted it down to the bottom. And then I went to go write he is alive, and I went to go find alive in a Farmhouse font and found out that he is alive is not part of this quote. It's just a song lyric that I know, and I know he is alive. God's not dead, he is alive. It just was, I was having the worst time to try to make such a beautiful spiritual message. Just the worst time. So I finally just said, deep breath, exhale, start a new day. you could see I went back over, I originally erased he is, and I was going to do something different. And then I was like, you know what, Jerry, just do what you want. Just let everybody just complain if they want to complain. So I went and I found alive, and I did the same thing on my notebook as you saw. I just went from the phone and I tried to do it on the line paper, which is a great way to practice because the line paper actually has lines. Then I made the hole, a new hole, a little lower that was bigger. I took a piece of black foam board because I wanted sort of like that black sticker on that tag. And I just used, this is a spool of ribbon, which was like the perfect size. And we've done that before. We've taken the top and bottom off the ribbon spools and we've cut them and colored them, which I could have done easy. So that's on other videos on my channel if you're interested. If you have, but I didn't have one because I used it yesterday when I was making the pom-poms, or the day before yesterday I was making the pom-poms. I didn't save any more rolls of ribbon. So I cut it out with my X-Acto knife, and then I colored the edges because this black foam board is white foam in the inside. So all I did was I just took my big fat fake black Sharpie from the Dollar Tree, and I colored around the edges, and in the middle I basically created that hole as well too. I wasn't so concerned about making the hole on the inside neat because I knew that the rope was going to go there. But I did still make sure that I tried to cut it out as evenly as possible and in the center as possible. And that's one of the great things about using an old ribbon spool thing, because there is a hole in the middle and it's sort of cut perfectly for you. So if you do have the opportunity to do that, just take the top and bottom off and glue them together and then color them with a marker or paint or whatever you want to use. And then I just fit that over the hole. And then I have this rope that I got from Wish. I just wanted to use it. We're all trying to use what we have in our stock. And it's really pretty braided rope that I got from wish.com. And I just used about a foot of it. And I did the same, like tie the tag on, tie the end off, and that's it. So I really eventually love the way it came out. It is exactly how I envisioned it. But I was just back and forth about should I do what I envisioned. And I ended up doing what I envisioned. So for the next DIY, we're going to make a carrot banner, and this is so simple. We're not going to add any beads to it. I was originally thinking I would add beads to it. Then I was thinking I would tie on some orange carrots, and then I was thinking I'd tie on some bunnies, and then I was thinking I'd tie on the black and white check carrots that I got from Hobby Lobby that are like three-dimensional carrots. I just decided to scrap all that. I just decided to take 3 different size buffalo checks, the gingham, the medium, and the large buffalo check, and I'm going to Mod Podge them on. The first thing I want to do is I see a lot of people will stick the Mod Podge on the carrot and stick it down on the piece of paper. I have a little bit more, I have to have more control over it with the way that the buffalo check lines up. I'm not trying to say that I'm a perfectionist when it comes to that, but I do have this thing. So I wanted to cut all the pieces of paper down. And then I was back and forth. Do I want to let the buffalo check extend up the carrots leaves, or do I want to leave that? And then you'll see in a little while, one of the options I was thinking about was using the alcohol and Sharpie technique to kind of make like a faded black stem, but I decided to just leave it wood. I may go back someday and use like Waverly stain, an antique, the wax and antique, but I just really like it. It's pretty. It still looks like wood. The reason the ink and alcohol technique was not going to work for this particular pack of carrots is all of the wood grain was going left to right. And if it was going up and down, it would have bled like a carrot stem was growing. So I just like to put a thin coat of Mod Podge underneath the paper, put the paper down, put a nice coat of Mod Podge on top. Don't get crazy. I like to run off the edges. The only one that actually gave me trouble was that mini check. And I think it's because I put just too much Mod Podge underneath it. You just want to put a thin coat underneath it, try not to glue your paper. And it's really the top coat that protects it that you really want to put on a decent amount. But I ended up putting bubbles in there, and then I just took my finger, one of the Mod Podge was wet, and I just rubbed out all of the little wrinkles and bubbles there. Okay. And then I did 2 with the big, 2 in the medium, and 1 in the small, because I knew how I wanted it to hang. And now that it's dry, and it dried in about, I'd say about an hour, It was like I did these and then I painted the wreath and then I came back and did these. But you'll see the wreath in a minute. And this technique is the easiest if you want a nice farmhouse edge on it anyway. You just take sandpaper and you rub along the edge. I feel like it was Megan from Glue Guns and Roses who inspired me to do it this way. I've cut it before. We've used scissors. We've done the X-Acto knife. We've torn it so it could be like really frayed looking. But I really like this technique a lot. And it gives you that kind of worn edge a little bit, which I really love. And that was the look I was going for anyway. So I might as well just put my scissor down. But what I found to be easy was I trimmed the paper up a little bit with a scissor. Got a little bit closer to the carrot shape. It just made it a little easier to move my sandpaper back and forth. Now, for the long straight edges, the sandpaper with going parallel to the edges, going in the same direction as the edges, was fine. But once I got to like the corners and the shoulders of the carrot, I had to make sure that I pulled it down with the pieces of paper, or else it would tear and move, because that's what it was doing for me anyway. And I just repeated this for all of the carrots. And I showed you there the little alcohol with the little black Sharpie. And it was okay. It was cute. It came out gray with little faded lines, but it really wasn't the look I was going after. So I just left them. I think they're cute. So now this is the ribbon left over from the bunny banner from the Dollar Tree. It's just a really long piece of white satin ribbon that I folded in half to find the middle. And then I folded that in half again, and that's when I put the large carrots on the ends. So at the 50% mark, I put the middle carrot, which was the little check, and then half between that and the end is where I put the big check, and then between the two carrots that existed is where I put the medium check. I did want a lot of extra on the ends because of where I was going to hang it at my house. But you could place the carrots wherever you want. And this technique where you put the ribbon through the hole from the back, wrap the ribbon around the carrot and make the loop that way, it is adjustable. So you can slide your carrots back and forth. You just have to pull on the ribbon, pull on the ribbon, give some slack in the loop, and then you can move it along on the ribbon. So that's how we did that one. And we did this, and I used the first half section that I made to make the second half. It's just easy that way. You just match up the carrots with its corresponding side, and you can get the placement properly. And then I tied loops on both ends, and then I hung it on my china cabinet with my permanent heart banner that's there. I love, and it's so cute. I just think it's really cute. And for the last project, this one is probably the easiest and has the most options. Well, actually, when you make a tag, the options are endless, but what I did was I took 2 packs of these eggs. There's 5 in a pack, and I wanted to make a wreath. Now, you could cut a cardboard wreath and glue them to the cardboard wreath. You could use a paper plate, cut a hole in the paper plate. You can use any wreath form, whatever you want, but I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to show you. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to keep the wood grain. I know that's not a very knotty wood grain on these things because they're balsa wood, but you can still see that it's wood. And I wanted to create sort of a whitewash to dark gray wash, and I wanted to do it in the varying shades. So I basically wanted to go totally white to almost totally black, a really, really dark gray. And all I did was I took some Waverly chalk paint in white and a tiny bit of ink with some water, because that's how you get the whitewash. You can either water down your paint or you can use a wet wipe to wash it off. But I like to water down the paint to create sort of a stain. And then I basically blended the shades. My second shade came out a little darker than I anticipated. So I just lightened that up and created 2 eggs that were between the white and the dark shade that I had just created. So you can rearrange them. And then I just added a little bit more black to darken that gray each time, until I got the shade that I wanted. And they do show up on the camera pretty well, but they're actually easier to tell the difference in real life, the different shades. You can tell, especially between the 1 and 2. The 1 and 2 on here almost looks the exact same, but in real life. Because the white is the first shade, it does let a lot of the tan of the wood come through, as opposed to the gray, it does start to go towards the gray blue side. So And then I did this with all of them. After I put on a coat of the paint, I took a tissue. I started with the first one that I painted, and I basically wiped off whatever, and then I did the second one, and I repeated that for each set of colors. So one of the ways I'm going to set it up is the way I actually eventually left it, which is light to dark, meaning light to dark. But one of the things that I was thinking I wanted to do is to make one white egg, one black egg, and then two of each of shades between them. And then basically make it like white at the top, going to dark, then back up to light. But you'll see we're kind of going to arrange it like that. So here is arranged the way that I'm going to leave it. And I found a perfect circle. This jar that I got, this candle jar from Dollar Tree, fits perfectly in the middle. And this just helped me lay it out perfectly. And here's the other option, was to sort of make like, dark to light and then back on the other side. Basically dark on the top and then light down around the sides. And you could take this wreath form from the Dollar Tree and you can use that just to give it a little bit more height and a little bit more texture in between them. But I figured to save my money, save my dollar, just create it like this. And yeah, I just really like it. I think the most important piece of advice that I can give is that make sure each egg goes directly straight from the candle holder. As you can see towards the top, I started to get sort of like where they were leaning into each other a little bit more. But that's okay. I think it looks a little bit more natural if it's not perfectly aligned. Like I literally could have gotten out a ruler and measured them each, and I didn't want to go like that crazy. I didn't care that it wasn't perfect, because perfectly imperfect, farmhouse way. And if you ask me. So I just add a little glue under each overlay, and then I turn it over and reinforce it with some more glue. And you can see it's kind of ovally shape. So I was trying to figure out which direction I liked, which I wanted the top to be. Now for the next thing, you can do all or none of this. You can fill in all of the hanging holes with spackle or wood filler before you paint them. Wood filler I would recommend because spackle doesn't really take whitewash like stain like the wood filler does. But I decided I really wanted to put just a tiny jute bow on the top of each egg. I just wanted to create a little bit more texture. This is something I hardly do, but I just had envisioned it for this particular project. The other thing that I did envision for this project and I didn't do was speckle them. I was going to speckle the white ones to the medium with gray, and then I was going to speckle the gray ones with white. But I said, you know what? Let's keep it simple. Can always add the speckling later if I wanted to. But let's just keep it simple. Let's just add a tiny bow to each hole to cover each hole, and then we'll put a hanger on the back. So I also am going to show you two different finished products. The simple hanger with just these, and then we're going to go ahead and add a buffalo check ribbon from Hobby Lobby, a nice bow on it too, just to give it a little bit more farmhouse feel. So I know this is going to sound silly, but if you've never made a bow out of jute before, it's really quite simple. It's just a matter of like how you would tie your shoelaces. So I tell everybody, you want to make one loop and then wrap it around with the other loop and, pull it through. When you do that, you want to start your first loop to the right of center, or if you're a righty, to the left of center if you're a lefty, and then wrap it with your left hand if you're righty, right here if you're lefty. And this way it become a little bit more even. Okay. And I glued one over each hole, and then I took a piece to hang it in the back, and I put one of these double knots on each end and sort of created a little hanger like this. Just let it set up. This is the hardest part, is waiting for the glue to dry or cool off. You know how that goes. And then we can hang it up, or waiting for your assistant help you hang it and photograph it. So here it is, just plain. I think it's really cute. It's delicate. I love the shades. You can obviously do this with any color. You can whitewash variations, gradients of any color. Blues, pinks. You can do all of them in different colors, whatever you want. So I wanted to show you here that you could just hang this with some burlap ribbon, some buffalo check ribbon. It would be so pretty to just put a loop around it. Did you see? But we're just going to create a bow. This is a 3-loop bow. This was the steal of the century. This ribbon was 75 feet, and it's got a very light wire edge, so it's not like a really stiff wire. And it was $5. It was $4.99 because it was Christmas, and all the Christmas was 50% off when it first came out. And I was like, run to the store and get it. So I made a three lip bow, notched the middle, used the long tail to tie the bow together, and then opened up all the loops and tied it onto the string. And there has how it looks with a bow. And that's all of these projects. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. If you do, give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to share this with friends and family. Anybody you know who might be interested in seeing one or all of these projects using any of the techniques or the details. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe. And when you do, a little bell will pop up. When you ring that bell, YouTube will let you know whenever I upload a new video. And as always, you guys take care. God bless. And we'll see you next time. Bye.